This weekend, Andy is terraforming planets, Ryan is chugging barbecue sauce, and we solve the president's problems on the Sega Genesis. I'm Ryan.
I'm Andy.
And this is Weekend Rental, episode 195. All right, welcome back, everybody, to another installment of this fantastic podcast. Andy, how you doing? What you been up to?
Oh, not too much, I guess. It's been cold
holiday
again,
slump.
but yeah, kind of. I've actually been playing some games, which is kind of nice. But how about you?
Yeah, nothing too crazy. I'd agree with you with this cold wave we've got coming through. I guess we're supposed to get like a couple days of 30 degrees, and then we're in the like negative 10s for highs. So it's like glimmer of hope, and then right back to the freezer. Yeah, I haven't been playing a lot of games. Actually, just had like coming off one of the worst fucking weekends ever. Well, I mean, maybe not the worst weekend ever, but my wife wanted to do some updates to our living room. Last weekend, she's like, well, we're not doing anything. Let's just get it done, which is mostly just painting. We wanted to repaint the entire living room in like a little weird, I don't know what you call it, the little oval room I have that like separates my living room, a couple bedrooms. It's not a hallway. It's like an egg shaped. Anyway, I'm on tangent, but she's all like assuring me like, well, I'll start, I'll do the ceiling paint and we'll prep stuff Friday night. I'll start that after work, and then we'll have like a second coat done on Saturday, like right in the afternoon, let's knock it out in a day. And I'm like, this is not going to work like that. I'm already like skeptical that this is not going to happen. And it did not happen that way at all. My entire fucking weekend. I literally worked until 9 p.m. on Sunday, which is when she finally went to bed. And it was just like the remodel from hell. Like how it is with lighting and painting, like you get flat lights and like you can't see certain spots and like you see things you miss. So like the ceiling turned into like 2 coats plus like weird touch-up coats and corner coats, because we were painting over a color back to white, so there's always the challenge of covering that. So that just sucked. And then we were going to do a couple other projects, like in some stuff with furniture and new curtain rods, and like turns into the whole thing on Sunday where it's like, that was weird. My computer just went nuts there. It turns into the whole thing on Sunday where you're just dying to get through the home stretch, right? Like, all right, we got the paint done finally. Like, let's get the furniture put back. Let's rearrange everything we moved out. And then I go to put the curtain rod up, and I have plaster and lath because I had an old house on a drywall. So like not ideal to just like screw stuff into, right? So like the homeowners I had before me were smart enough to like sink these like, I don't know, accent like molding pieces of wood into the corners and the upper corners of the window so that you have something solid to drill into, right? And your plaster's not going to rip out. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to put the curtain rods back up and screw into that. And I got a screw halfway in and the block just cracks in half. So I'm like, super. So I'm like looking all over the house. I'm like, I got to have some Gorilla Glue or some wood glue somewhere. I don't. So sun's already starting to go down at like 4:30 now. I'm like, I got to get curtains done. Like this isn't an option to not get this done. So then that requires another, like my 4th trip to the hardware store in 3 days just to get a thing of Gorilla Glue. I get home, get that done. I clamp it up. So then I start hanging the curtains up. I'm like, I'll start with the other curtain rod over the window where the one's not broken while this thing dries, right? And then the fucking curtains that my wife bought, because we got new curtains as part of this update, are like millimeters. The loop is millimeters too small for the curtain rods we have. Like the diameter will not work. So now I've just gotten back. I've just done the Gorilla Glue thing. And now I'm like, we're going back to the store. And we packed up and then went and did the curtains. And it was one of those things where we needed like X amount of curtains. So we needed like enough matching panels. Like we could not find anything that would match. It was such a shit show. Anyway, get that home, get done, and yeah, I was so pissed. I mean, it was like 5:30, and then we're like pausing to eat, and then picking it back up, and it it couldn't have gone any worse. Like everything, every step along the way, something happened, and then we just had to like stop everything and redo it. It was unbelievable. And then I bought, and then after that, as we're putting stuff back together, we decided that I needed more storage for vinyl records, which I did. So we have like one of those like nicer like cube storage things that fit records really good, like the 13-inch cube things, like IKEA sells them too. And I thought I had bought this thing from Menards. And in hindsight, I think I bought the first one from Target. So I buy what I think is the exact same thing so I can double it up and double my storage from Menards. And then I'm like, I put it all the way together, cut the box up into like a million pieces and threw it in my recycling. And then I go to set it next to the other shelf, only to realize that no, this is not, in fact, the same. Like the color's slightly off, minor annoyance. But then for some reason, it's like an inch and a half shorter in the back than the other one, and just does not line up at all. And I'm just like, fuck me. Like, and this is so finally I just set it next to the other one, put all my records in there, and was like, I'm done. Like, I give up. I'm over this. So yeah, I did not have a blast in between the last time we recorded and now. Like, I feel like I've worked 2 weeks. I'm going on like 2 weeks straight of work at this point. So it sucks.
Yeah, that I'm. What is it about that type of stuff that just never goes as smoothly as
Never.
at least in the wife thinks it will.
Right, right.
I'm usually pessimistic about that stuff. I've been through enough that yeah, I'm gonna need it have. And that's the thing. It's always like running to the store. How many times? You have to go
Yes.
to like Home Depot like 4 times, and it's
Yeah. What was fun though is like
well,
I have to go to that Menards near me that's kind of like on that frontage road, and then Sunday we get all that snow and like wind whipping, and like that frontage road curves a little bit. So like I did like the sickest unintentional 45-degree angle like power slide around a corner at like 35 miles an hour, and it snapped back just before I hit like oncoming traffic. It was pretty great.
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
It almost seemed like I knew what I was doing, when in all reality I was just hoping I didn't jump a curb or hit somebody. But yeah, I don't know. It whatever. The work we did looks nice. Like I'm glad we did the update, but I'd take that 48 hours of my life back any day.
Mm.
And then both kids had a sleepover. So it worked out that they were both doing a sleepover Saturday night. So like we could have had this like glorious Saturday night where we had no responsibility. But instead,
But you stayed home and did that. Yeah.
did that. Yeah. It's great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Sorry. That was a long rambling, non-related to video game.
Well, I've been doing some home updates too. Um, I installed this system called Home Assistant. It's
Oh,
it's kind of like a Google Assistant, Alexa type thing, but it's local, and you run it on your own server.
okay. So it
And
doesn't
then
do any of
there's
the creepy like listening to you and selling your information to Google and
yeah, exactly. And then there's just tons of integrations with pretty much almost every smart thing that you can buy. So you can kind of all connect it to your own home server and run it. So I've been doing a lot of that, doing light bulbs and smart plugs and stuff like that.
I just want to run into your home now and just yell butt plug on and then see if I hear any
See if it
vibrating
works.
sounds. Yeah.
So my favorite thing so far is you can control the TV, and there's a lot of like programming. So like you can do statements like if this is on, if the if this light's on, then do this, or a whole bunch of stuff like that.
Sure.
Um, so right now on my phone, I can just turn off YouTube. I have a button on my phone that just says no more YouTube
Like for the evening, like
for the
are just
kids.
off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I just press it, and if they're on it, it connects to all the Roku TVs and
Nice.
shuts it down. And if they try and go into YouTube, it doesn't do it. It announces over Google, all the Google devices, no more YouTube.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun, like doing that stuff. I even connected it to the Xbox. So whenever my wife signs in to Xbox Live, all the Googles in the house go, "What's mom doing?"
Nice. Pretty easy to like program too.
Yeah, it's a Linux based thing, so you have to
Oh,
do that whole like
sure.
virtualization and stuff on a if you want to do it on a Windows thing. And that's
Gotcha.
always fun trying to get like devices to show up on that, but
Yeah.
that took a while. But um a lot of the lights in my house are fluorescent lights, like these ring fluorescent things,
Yep.
which they don't really make smart things of that. At least they're not very cheap. So the only option to control those is in the light switch themselves,
Okay.
putting like relays in there, and
Sure.
that's where I'm having like your type of um situation where it's like, oh, if I crack these open and start like wiring these little boxes in between all of this,
Yes.
either something's not going to go the way I want it to, or I'm going to burn the house down, or you know, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of nervous about doing those.
Yeah. At least you've got to have pretty modern wiring, right? Because like your place isn't that old.
Yeah, it's got decent wires, but yeah, I'd have to add wire because you're basically like
Oh,
adding another thing into the middle of it.
sure. And then you're
So
running wires through things, and yeah, that sounds awful.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I'd say just well, like, are your fluorescent, like your ring fluorescents, are they like in ceiling or are those like ceiling mounts, like external?
they're ceiling mount, yeah, but
So you'd probably almost be better off just like swapping out the fixtures. Is that like the easier?
yeah, we could do something like that. My guess is they're from what I wonder if you take the ballast down, like if the paint is gonna look all
Oh,
because then you'd have to paint again too.
yeah.
'Cause I'm
Well,
guessing they painted right around the
then you just
ballast.
need to make sure you do what I always have to do. Well, except in this case, because I replaced the light fixture too, because I knew we were going to paint. Because I had the exact same thought the last time, and I would just measure the fixture I had and just make sure the one you buy that's replacement is larger. Just like I'll 3 inches bigger, I'm good. Don't have to worry about anything.
These are like what are they? Probably I'd have to probably buy 2 feet by 2 feet across lights.
Get a little carried away. Yeah, yeah, that is always the problem. Like you never know what you're gonna find under there. Yeah,
Yep.
well, that's cool though. That sounds pretty neat. Pretty. So, what do you have it like? You have to like prop it up on your own network and server. Do you just have like a dedicated box, or do you have like a partition on a?
Yeah, I just have one of my old computers. I'm
Oh,
running
you
it
use the
on.
server.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, that's cool. That's
But
neat.
yeah, it's pretty impressive, and they're adding
Expensive
stuff
or no?
free.
Oh, free. Okay. Oh yeah,
Yep.
Linux, I suppose. Yeah,
Yep.
there's not a lot that runs on Linux that costs money. So
Yeah, it's all community, open source stuff that people are building all these integrations and stuff like this. But
yeah, that's cool.
um, yeah,
Did you just
there's a
get bored one day and decided you wanted to try this, or like how'd you find out about it?
yeah. So I watched one video about one guy who, and he does it extreme. Like he's got a sensor under his mattress in his bed, so he knows when like when he goes to bed, like all this shit happens in his house.
No
Like the,
kidding.
the all the locks go on, the alarms are set, all the lights go off, just like everything in
Huh.
his house. I'm like, that's
Picture
pretty
like
cool.
the purge, where like the sun goes down, like everything just closes around you.
Yeah, the panic room basically.
Yeah, right. Huh.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, it started because I have one room. It's kind of like a sunroom. It doesn't have any light sources in it, so it's basically you have lamps.
Okay.
Um, and the light switch kind of controls that, and then the lamps also, just kind of suck to have to put your arm in there to turn it on if you want to do it that way. And
Right.
so I kind of wanted a smart solution for that area.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, especially like usually it's the combination too of like you're climbing over the couch, like leaning over part of a piece of furniture and someone's sitting on it, then you're trying to get the lamp and
Yep.
yeah, I can see that. That makes sense. I like how you just like avoided like the, $5 Amazon smart Wi-Fi or plugs, and you're just like, no, fuck it, I'm building my own network with,
Yep.
with Linux.
Yep. So I have some of those plugs, but now I'm controlling them with, motion sensors and stuff like that. So
That's awesome. I like it. Yeah, well um beyond the remodel, I again have not really been doing much for gaming, but I've been watching a lot of content. It's that time of year, you know. It's just like it's dark at 5. Let's start watching some movies. Um, but we also went to the theater because we had to see, you know, the brand new Sonic movie. Have you guys seen this yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I don't. I didn't talk about this last time, right? I don't think. Yeah, we
No,
recorded.
I
Yeah, I
don't
was
think.
going. I was going like 2 days after. So I went on the first, and or no, not the first, but 31st. I don't even remember what day I went. But anyway, we went to this movie. Um, very good. Very. I think it's probably the best at all three. To be honest, it does the most to just stand alone as like an action film. You don't really need to know if you know the ins and outs of like the characters and stuff as the background. It helps, but it's just a pretty solid action movie all the way around. Jim Carrey plays two roles, so he's usually simultaneously on screen with himself for a majority of the movie, and some of those sections are really fucking hilarious. They're great. I don't know about Keanu Reeves as a voice actor for Shadow. Like, I kind of have a hard time like getting past that I'm listening to Keanu Reeves. I can't really separate them out in my head. If you're a kid, you probably don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, really solid. You know, a teaser at the end, of course, teasing another possible movie. I'd assume Jim Carrey would not be back beyond this point, because, well, seemingly his character dies. We've seen that before, sort of, too.
Hmm.
Um, so it's tough to say, but yeah, I liked it a lot. I like it better than the Mario movie for sure. But I think I've liked the Sonic ones in general better. At least two I liked better than the Mario movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, I thought for certain Jim Carrey wasn't going to come back for this one,
Hmm.
and I want to say I think he's signed up for the next one already.
Oh, really? So they
I
are.
I,
I mean,
I thought I saw that
I
that,
guess
but
how do you do it without Robotnik, right? But
yeah,
they're gonna have
it's just
to.
crazy. Like that guy. I mean, he walked away from The Mask too. He's like, I just don't want to do it. Like,
Yeah,
like he was the biggest guy on earth at that point, and he's just doing. I mean, he didn't want to do Dumb and Dumber 2 for a long time. Like he
right.
just, and now he's like, yeah, I'll just keep doing this. I'll do the Eddie Murphy double thing where I'm playing two characters.
Yeah,
But I mean, he's good in them. So
he is good, and his two character thing was great. I mean, he plays himself and his an older version of himself, essentially, grandpa or whatever. But yeah, just like the physical comedy in a couple of those scenes with the two of them together. Like I would have loved to have watched them shoot that because you know, like the dude's just by himself, but they did it like so seamlessly. There's a scene in particular where they go through some laser beams as a duo and like basically end up doing like a dance number that is fucking hilarious. But yeah, I'm continually and constantly impressed by the quality of the Sonic movies. I had such low expectations with the first one, and that one turned out to be so much better than it was. And the second one I thought was great, and this one I think just improves on it in every way. As far as like it feels like more like a good action film with some comedy than it does even a video game movie. Like you almost, I mean, it's video gamey obviously, but I don't know if you'd have to be a fan of Sega or Sonic. So
that's crazy. Like if you just said that 10 years ago, I mean, we couldn't even fathom that we'd
yeah,
be like, yeah, we're on the third Sonic movie and it's great. It
yeah,
had
and right,
Shadow the Hedgehog in it.
and it's Keanu Reeves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I read that as of right now, it is the second highest grossing video game movie of all time behind
Probably
Mario
Mario.
Brothers.
Yeah.
And there's still time, right? Like maybe it won't get there in the box office, but I'm sure it'll continue to make money on streaming and stuff too. So yeah, check it out. I recommend. Definitely
Yeah.
stay for like the post cutscene. They don't make you wait too long, but hang around 30 seconds to catch that because it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably guess the character that they unveil at that
The
one.
one.
Well, there's two that they unveil, and neither one of them will be a surprise.
Yeah.
They're logical.
Yeah. It's when we're in the sixth movie and they're doing Big the Cat or something like that. Then you're
Yeah.
like, oh.
Oh God, that was like my favorite scene. Okay, so maybe I should touch on this too. Like they really paid attention to show Dreamcast love in this movie. You know how like there's been nods to different eras of Sonic. This one was very much like the Dreamcast nods were present, and like I think my favorite one was there's a scene where they're in Japan. You know how Japan is like all those like weird, like cat restaurants and stuff or whatever. Well, they end up in a chow restaurant. It's just like a chow garden with like people in like chow plushie costumes, like dancing around, and like it's all nonsensical Japanese shit. It's like, oh, this is so great.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
What a nice nod to Sonic Adventure. And then keeping with the Dreamcast Sonic Adventure, like they really upped the butt rock. Like that like shitty like guitar butt rock soundtrack
Yep.
that's all over Sonic in that era is like in this movie like perfectly. So they really nailed that vibe and like when Shadow came into the game. So really neat.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. It's kind of at that point where do I just wait until it comes on Paramount because it's probably somewhat soon.
I think it popped up on our Plex server 2 days after we watched it in the theaters. So yeah, not that I'm endorsing piracy or anything, but it's not my Plex server. I just have access to somebody who's naughty. So.
Yeah, well, also, I mean, I don't want to spend $100 at the theater.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Well, I had my Marcus movie rewards, so I got to save $5 off my $60 ticket purchase. And then that gave me enough rewards to save $5 off my $60 popcorn and soda purchase when I got there. So really, it was super affordable for 2 hours of entertainment.
Got 10% off. Huh?
Yep, just scored on that one. Yeah, it still blows my mind how much it costs to go to a movie anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with kids.
For sure.
Huh. I stayed home and watched the Awesome Games Done Quick this last week.
Ah, where was that out of?
I think this one's in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I want to say. Like usual, same old stuff, kind of. You got you wouldn't be surprised to hear this. They did the Zelda Echo or the Echoes of Wisdom, and a lot of the speed run revolves around the bed. So
you don't say. The best item in the game, huh?
Yeah. So that one was pretty fun. But I really love seeing the weird ones. They always do some strange ones,
Right.
or other stuff to it. And this year they had a guy beat a whole bunch of Elden Ring bosses, basically using like a electronic saxophone as a controller.
Okay.
And it was hilarious because the whole time it's just like do, because it's just this whatever notes he's pressing or converting into actions on the button presses, and it was pretty hard not to laugh at that.
That's pretty wild. Like, and what is the point of that? Like, I mean, I guess it's all for charity, but like, you don't want your name in the book of like dude who has the trial record for Saxaboom. Like,
I think that's his thing. His Twitch name is Dr. Doot. So I think it's his whole identity. I'm thinking he does this as a whole thing.
Interesting.
But, what else? They did Crazy Taxi with a live band behind while they played.
Did they actually get Bad Religion and the Offspring?
Yep.
I can see the Offspring being like, yeah, we'll do that.
Well, so it was, I don't know if they got the rights to him or whatever, but it was just, random bands doing it, right? Or just whatever. Covers. But it's weird because they were doing it to the game as it was being played. So obviously they're playing the levels really fast. So it would be like, yeah. And then they do like 10 seconds of the song and then the level would be over and then they'd shut it down. and then they go to the next song.
Oh
So
god, that's hilarious.
they probably sang that beginning of that Offspring song at least 5 times in this 15-minute run.
I mean, that's
So,
that. Those 10 seconds are burned into my brain from that game anyway.
yeah.
So, oh, interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, it's always kind of entertaining to see how they break stuff and how they go about it. And it's just like crazy interesting. I say this all the time that like people who dedicate they talk about it like, hey, you just watched me do this. Now you could watch me. I'm up on Twitch every single day doing this. And it's like, well, how
Yeah,
do these people have followings that are gonna, I don't know.
I I have a hard time even like I watch bits and pieces of those things sometimes, but like they don't hold my attention even for like maybe more than like 30 minutes. I just can't do it. I don't know why. But
Yeah, and that's like the perfect like staged. They have like they're going through explaining it. There's commentary. There's a whole
yeah,
bunch of stuff specifically for it, and like I just can't picture going to like being part of their community or whatever and being on there just watching it every day. It's unfathomable. It's got to be just like the same people in speedrunning, just watching other people speedrun. I don't know.
yeah, that's probably true. Like you want to get into it, so you're like checking everybody else out. Yeah, it's cool though that they had like Echoes of Wisdom already in there. I
Hmm.
mean, it is like the perfect type of game for that, I guess. But
Yeah, the
well, that's
Breath of the
cool.
Wild one is. I mean, they still have to like get through the island, which is kind of funny, or the plateau that they have to get
Right,
through.
that you
So
have to
like
get off
the,
of.
the
Yeah,
vast majority of the game is just doing that, and then
because
at the
yeah,
end
that's
they're
kind
just
of an
like,
unavoidable 20 minutes, right?
and then they're just like straight to Ganon and beat the game right after that. They still haven't
Yeah,
figured out how to like do that. But then you watch like Ocarina of Time, and they're just basically like somehow like coding the game inside of the game, like manipulating whatever they want out of it.
so crazy.
Even Mario 64, I think it was like a 4-minute speed run. They beat the whole game. Um, and a good like 50 seconds of that is just like the initial camera zoom, like Lakitu flying from the sky and like zooming around the castle that they can't skip.
Because that one at this point is largely just like clipping through, right? Like it's all about like clipping through sections.
Yeah, there's some glitch that you can like you get like infinite speed or something and you just blow through any wall that you want to. So
Nice.
yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I saw something else kind of crazy. I don't know if you picked up on this, but um, something I didn't know was like early development for GTA 3 was like super early development for GTA 3 was on Dreamcast hardware before they quickly pivoted to the PlayStation 2. But like, I guess this group that's been working on it forever just like launched GTA 3 for the Dreamcast like a week and a half ago, and it runs like fully intact at like a pretty reasonable 27 to 30 frames per second, which is mind blowing.
Yeah. I did see this. That is just crazy. I mean, I think there's something to do with the draw distance. It's like way lower or something, right?
Yeah, and the resolution, texture resolution they had to compress, but yeah, like they got the cutscenes, they got the games there, which is so
Yeah.
wild to me.
Yeah. I wonder how they did that if they actually found the source code somehow.
Yeah, I don't know, but I just watched like
Finished it.
I've watched a few videos of like people just going through gameplay and like yeah, there's noticeable hiccups. Um like the occasional like screen tear, but all in all, like it is the game you remember. Like and that just blows my mind. And it also like again, it makes you sad, right? Because the Dreamcast never got to like full use. I mean, there weren't major sequels in a lot of ways, right? Because I mean, it was dead in 2 years, so you never got to the
Mhm.
okay, we've learned all the exploits of this hardware. At like the 5 year mark or the 4 year mark. I mean, they did, I mean, there was some impressive stuff done in the 2 years that it was out, but I think there was just like so much untapped potential there. So it's cool to see, you know, the homebrew community really come together and take it upon themselves to make something run that shouldn't run on hardware like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Can you
wild.
imagine if I mean, if that really came out and that was
If that had
like
been on the Dreamcast,
exclusively on
yeah,
especially exclusive, like that might have evened the score.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Like if they'd have had that, plus they'd have had Code Veronica X,
Yeah.
if all that stuff had come there and stayed for a couple years. Because I mean, GTA on PlayStation 2 was the killer app when that
Yeah.
thing was out in its like second year of life or whatever. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. And then it's funny to think about like how primitive GTA 3 is compared to like San Andreas. Like
Right.
and being on the same hardware too, with like how much they improved just in that short of time.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's taken what 15 years for the 6 to come out.
You know what I keep hoping, like when I see like the old GTAs and stuff like this, is like I really hope they bring back the side missions. Like to me, that was what was lacking from 5 and 4 to some extent. Is like I want the fire truck shit back. I want like the odd job stuff. Like that's the fun stuff. Like I'm just gonna play the game within the game for a while.
That's GTA Online now, right?
Well,
Like
that's true. I guess you're
you,
not
you're
wrong there.
there's people role playing as a firefighter full time on there. I'm
Yeah, that
sure.
is true. I kind of forget that thing is still the juggernaut that it is. Because like I never really did much more than kind of like dabble in it because it took so long to launch.
Yeah,
But
it's kind of crazy that even persevered out of that for how. Yeah, it wasn't. It was almost a year, wasn't it? I don't
oh,
remember
it
how.
was at least a year. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was pretty wild before it got like stable and worked and pretty crazy. It was very good. I mean, the chaos of a game like that online
hmm
is pretty nuts. But I I think like the fact that has continued to be what's kept that game alive and brought them revenue for so long just blows my mind though. Because it's like I know they add stuff, but I don't know. It's still just the game, right? Like,
right. And it has to have poisoned the development of this game
oh,
too.
that's
I mean,
true.
it's it's going to be 100% built toward that, right?
Yeah, I'd imagine you're right. I'm guessing they don't want to make the misstep, and they want to have 6 ready to go online in a good way from day
Yep.
one. And I think if they can't deliver that, they're going to be pissed at themselves. But all I really want is just a new map, new modes, and more craziness. So I just want a good single player game.
hmm Yeah, I hope that'll be the case. It should be. I wonder if there'll be PC right away or not.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
They didn't last time, but
No, but PC is in a different position than it was last time too.
Mhm.
It's definitely like the number one platform for the most part.
Yeah.
Even me, I was like shopping on Steam the other day, and you're just like, yeah, like every PlayStation 5 killer app game is on here. Like,
Yep.
I was like, I didn't know Ratchet and Clank was on here. I'm like, that's crazy to me.
Yep. Yeah, I just bought that during the last sale
Yeah,
on Steam.
I
So
looked at it too. Yeah, I was like, that's a good price.
yep.
But then I convinced myself that it would just sit in my backlog, which I was
hmm
probably right.
hmm
Yeah.
I cleared some things out of my backlog. I,
Oh,
I I did finish Indiana Jones.
oh, what's your takeaway?
That's an amazing game. I really like that game. It's amazing how well they did making that feel like an Indiana Jones game, or just even
Mm-hmm.
like a movie. Like it's an extension of the movie. It could have been a movie.
Sure.
They did such a good job with the locales and the puzzles and kind of like the whole like. I mean, the stuff you're finding, right? It's all like hugely historical stuff that you're like tracking down, mythological stuff, right? And and the voice actor is just, I mean, he sounds just like Harrison Ford. It's crazy. And
Yeah.
the graphics are really good. And yeah, it's one of those games that I went around and found all the collectibles on the map.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Um, haven't 100%ed it, I would say, yet, but for the most part, I did. I did most of it.
How much time did you put in, do you think, with your playthrough?
Ooh, probably 30 to 40 hours, I'd say.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I still have it installed. I had every intention of picking it up by now. I just haven't found the time.
Hmm.
Well, I'll have to do it. I don't know that I'll get through it, but I definitely want to experience a few hours of it.
Yeah, the last location I struggled with a little bit. It's in like Taiwan or no, Siam, I think, and it's a lot of like swamp land. So you're traveling by the boats with the big motors or the big
The airboats or whatever.
no the ones with the really long rotors,
Oh yeah, okay, I know what you're talking
like one
about.
of those type of
Yeah,
things, and you're just kind of going through the swamp. So it's a little less open. It's a lot more swimming stuff too, which kind of bogs it down,
sure.
but still was pretty good. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, I would say that's probably my favorite game of last year that came out.
Well, you get to count it for this year though, because it did make the
I
cutoff for
know.
the Game of the Year award. So
Yeah,
now
that's
for your
true.
favorite game of 2025.
Yeah, that's true. Um, we'll see what the Switch has, right? I mean, we're doing this too early. We should have done it later this week, apparently.
Yeah, it
But
sounds like we're gonna maybe find out, or maybe see the official unveil. I don't know. Doesn't matter at this point. I think we all have a good enough idea of what it looks like based on all these very credible third party manufacturer leaks. So
yeah, when they have like videos of the thing, that's
yeah.
hmm.
So it's like I almost care less about like seeing the console and more about what is the street date and what games. The games is what I'm very
Yeah.
curious on. I have some rough ideas of what I think might be potential, but I actually was in Target like a week and a half ago, right after we recorded, and I suppose like somebody coming out with like their post holiday cash or whatever, and this guy's like, "Yep, I'll take that Switch," and like I want that game and that game, and I want to be like, buddy, just don't, buddy.
Yeah.
But like now, I'll just let him throw $500 at a console that's gonna be replaced in 2 months. So
Yeah.
not
And
that you can't get plenty of life out of a Switch if you bought one now, like with the backlog, but
oh, for sure.
I'd,
Yeah.
I'd feel like such an idiot because the next thing's here.
Yeah. And boy, is it the same thing. Like it's kind of like on one hand, I like that Nintendo's not going a whole hog with, well, we got to find the next gimmick thing. We got to do the next thing. But at the same time, it's kind of disappointing. They're always switching something, making it look different or whatever.
Yeah, there's still that chance that they'll Nintendo the shit out of this thing, right? And like just do something like absolutely ridiculous that we're not expecting. It goes against all logic. However, I think they know that they've got a cash cow, and
Mm.
the only thing wrong with their cash cow is its technical limitations. So
And everybody's copying it now. Yeah.
yeah, like it's still a slam dunk idea. Like just make it so developers and third party just make it so third party developers can port their games more easily, and I don't know, do the right thing and like put a fucking 500 gigs of storage in it, please, so we don't have to
Yeah.
immediately buy a memory card, which I know they won't do, but
Yeah.
they just can't wrap their heads around that not everybody can compress and design games ridiculously like they can.
Or yeah, or even spend the time to do that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played my Switch today, and there is something going on with the fan in that thing. It sounds like a jet going off.
That's
It's
not good.
not good. There's something about to explode in that thing, so I'm ready for a new Switch, that's for sure.
Probably got like a chunk of lint in there. And
All my Joy-Cons are all garbage. They're no matter when you turn them on, they're always like flying to the left or the right, or
oh, really?
just yeah, the sticks are garbage in them.
It's funny because like I have so many people tell me that, and I don't have a set of Joy-Con yet that have Joy-Con drift, but I'm also acutely aware of the fact that my Switch has been 99.9% of its life just in the dock, so I
Yeah,
just don't use the Joy-Con, which is probably why.
I, they I will be shocked if they didn't spend a lot of money on R&D to fix that this go around.
Well, yeah, because like they've got the solution for that, right? Like there's that magnetic or like whatever that technology is where that like just doesn't drift.
Yeah, the Hall effect, I think,
Yeah,
is
there
that
you
what it's
go.
called? Yeah,
If they didn't upgrade for that at this point, they're silly because I'm sure they paid out the ass, and I continue to pay out the ass for replacing and fixing these things for people. So
yeah.
yeah, the only thing I didn't like too is I don't know if you looked at those side profile pics of the Joy-Con, but they've still kept like it almost looked to me like potentially the Joy-Con analog sticks were shorter than the current like full size
Wow.
model, which I don't like. Like I don't know if you've played on light much, but like they're so shallow and like that throw distance. I don't know. Like and maybe they're not even different. Maybe it's just in my head, but I would really like a more like prominent, at least left thumbstick. And I get why you don't want to do it in a portable, but at the same time, it makes games feel a lot better.
Yep. Bring back the PSP disc thing.
Oh my
Remember
god!
those?
You mean the thing that everyone thought was a speaker until they realized it wasn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to hate that. I mean, I played a shitload of Burnout on that thing, and like, you get sweaty, and it was like that hard plastic, and like your thumb would always slide off. And I
Yep.
mean, functionally, it's pretty amazing the way it worked, considering what it was. But yeah, that thing was wild.
Yeah. Yeah. It worked. I mean, it never had problems really. I never
Yeah,
saw them, but
no, I didn't either. Seen a couple at thrift stores where they're like, ripped off, and but it's just poor ownership. I think.
yeah. Hmm.
I don't know. What else you been playing? I saw you had a couple games there.
We finished all of the Transformer movies. We're
Ah,
done.
does that include the animated one and Bumblebee?
Yes. So we're ending this on a high note. Like that Michael Bay shit, like that is that's a gauntlet to get through.
Yeah.
Um and then yeah, once Bumblebee hits, that's a great one.
hmm
The next one, the one with the beast is whatever. So it's not bad, um but that animated one that they just came out last year,
Yep.
that one is really good. It's like a comedic take on it too, and it's a weird version where like Optimus Prime is like friends with Megatron for most of the movie.
Yeah, I saw that in the previews.
Yeah. And then it kind of takes a sideways turn. But yeah, I mean, all the guys look like from the original cartoon, and great voice cast. Really fun. There's some really good funny parts in it, like legitimately funny, not just for kids stuff. So yeah, I'd recommend that one. Transformers 1, I think it's called.
Okay. Yeah, it's been on my radar. I've been wanting to watch it. I just haven't convinced the kids to sit down and do it, but I've heard nothing but good stuff. And like you said, I mean, after the Michael Bay schlock, like it's nice just to have like a reboot on some of that. And it's sort of
Yep.
an origin story too, which is cool.
Yep. And it's just robots. It's no like, now let's go see what these humans are doing.
No
Like all
witwickies to get in the way.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. They didn't really ever need us anyway, so the whole thing is kind of like nonsensical.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. It's pretty amazing that you got through them all too.
Yeah, I think I'm done with them for a while though.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
uh,
fair.
I did turn on the old movie, and I couldn't do it.
Like the old '80s animated one.
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
where Optimus Prime dies, and that movie is, like I I look at kids cartoons now, and it's just like so manic. Like everything is
Right.
shortcut and everything. That movie, there's guns blasting the entire time. There's a soundtrack just blaring music the entire movie. There's no time to rest really in that movie at all. So like that put it into perspective. It's like, oh no, this has kind of always been a
It's
thing.
always been like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just seemed different when we were kids.
Yeah. That's probably why they were so popular though, because it was just like nonstop, just something's happening.
Yeah, makes sense. It's funny. I vaguely remember that movie, but I haven't watched it in forever.
Yeah, I was too young really for it to Transformers in general. I just never really got into, but
Yeah, I didn't too much either. I mean, I had a couple toys and stuff, and I remember watching the cartoon occasionally, but yeah,
yeah.
never clicked with me either. I watched another movie too that ties back to an older movie, and I watched that Beetlejuice sequel, the Beetlejuice. That's good. I mean, I like the first movie a lot, and I think like they shouldn't have made a sequel to it. But you know how the first one kind of like is almost a bait and switch. Like they call it Beetlejuice or whatever, but like Beetlejuice isn't even the star of the show. He's just like the villain plot point, and like the real story is the couple and the daughter. And this one like is there's still like a human storyline, obviously, but like Beetlejuice is very much a big part of the movie. So that's kind of cool to see. I think it's really well done. I think like for a mainstream audience and like a, blockbuster, movie theater type movie, like they nail it. Like it's good in that way. I don't think it was necessary. But the whole family enjoyed it. The, the like plot twists and stuff were pretty like apparent. You could see the things coming a mile away, but it didn't make it any less enjoyable. And the parts that are burned into your brain from Beetlejuice, which is the afterlife sequences, which were just you know a minor footnote for the most part in the first movie, are very much half of the movie set piece this go around. So there's a lot more of that wackiness, which is fun to see.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I keep meaning to get to it because yeah, we watched the original not too long ago.
Yeah, just in time to applaud it for not ruining its legacy with a shitty sequel, and then it was like
Yeah,
announced. It was
that's
literally
right.
announced like the week after we recorded, so you had to like put like a. I think you had to put a note in front of the episode that like literally 4 days after we recorded this got announced. Yeah,
I don't know how we had better timing than that, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that
I I enjoyed it. I appreciate the first one too, but I think this is probably like a more fully realized film. Maybe is
yeah. I mean, the plot to that first one is, I mean, if it didn't have like Keaton doing his thing and like the atmosphere, like that the actual plot of that movie is really nonsensical,
bonkers.
kind of. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
that's good to hear. I don't know why I haven't seen that yet either because we have a Max. I think it's on that right now. So
Yeah, I think you're right. And then just another random side note, not going to talk about it too much, but Hulu just dropped that new Goosebumps series with
hmm,
Ross from Friends. I forget the actor's name, but we're 3 episodes into the 8 episode series, and that is very good. It's one narrative, but they're touching on multiple books and weaving it into the plot. Like so, you'll remember distinct characters and like happenings from some of those books, and they're weaving it into this like ongoing ensemble cast, which is a cool take on it. Like
does
it
it have like kind of like a lighter tone to it, or is it pretty dark?
I mean, it's got some comedy, but they went more teen
Okay,
focused. There's some gore and some jump scares and not a lot of like kiddie shenanigan stuff.
okay,
I'd say it's right around the like that TV, not mature, but like whatever, 17 or whatever the ratings
sure.
are now.
Okay, that's kind of what I was wondering if it was too much for the younger kids. They probably would.
Yeah, I think you'd be pushing it. Like my son even got a little freaked out. So we stopped. We watched one episode tonight and we're done by like 7 because We don't want him having nightmares again. So.
Yeah.
But not that it's overly scary, but it's enough.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, it's cool. They keep doing stuff with that. I guess. I mean, it's crazy that they didn't turn it into. I don't know why that isn't more of a like monster of the week type show.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
Well, fun fact, I started going down the rabbit hole, and like YouTube, listens to you. I'm sure, like as you're, um, or maybe it just got recommended because Goosebumps was trending. But I watched a thing, and like somebody did a deep dive on like what, like one of those like rise and fall things. And it turns out that like basically what killed Goosebumps in large part was it had a split publishing deal back in the day, and like one entity controlled merchandising rights and the other entity was largely publishing, and like the cost disparity, and it all like basically came crumbling down once those negotiations and renegotiations and like disputes over um monetary things between those two publishing companies plus the Steins, and that basically like collapsed the entire empire.
huh.
Which makes sense. Because yeah, like it seemed like it was everywhere until it wasn't.
Hmm.
And the books have continued to pick up, and he's still writing them in like different versions of Goosebumps storylines, but like it was like that right around like 90, I don't know, 97. I feel like is kind of like where you just kind of like stopped really hearing about it.
Yeah, it was weird because the TV show like even like stopped, and
Yeah.
it was almost right at that time where it was. I think it's still really popular, right? I
Yep.
don't know.
Yeah, and that was also due to the negotiate, because that was the one thing was like the media and licensing cuts and royalties was.
Hmm.
So when that all fell apart, and then apparently there was like a big decline in sales, and they were like noting like which volume, like because apparently the original contract was Stein had to also write everything. Like he couldn't have ghostwriters; it had to all be his stuff.
Mm.
And they suspect, it's never been proven because he won't say it, is that like at like whatever iteration, like the third series, like 3 years in, he started using ghostwriters who started taking more liberties, and like they showed the first book that it was suspected, and I distinctly remember as a kid reading that one and being like this is different, and then like you got a few more books after that and you're like, yeah, something fell off here, and that's when I stopped buying them. But I mean, they were still popular, everyone was still buying them, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, until Animorphs came out, then then it was all she wrote.
Animorphs. Animorphs is so lame. Some of the things
Yeah.
you animorphed into are just like terrible. It's funny that you mentioned that because like that same guy who did like the rise and fall, the next video, because the next thing queues up, and like the next one that came up was on Animorphs. So I was like, okay, I gotta watch this now. And they were like reviewing the old show and like how bad that thing was on television. Oh my god, just like the cheap, shitty effects.
Oh yeah, I don't even remember. Yeah, they did make a TV show, didn't they?
Yep.
Oh man, I need to see that how they'd handled those transitions. That's got to be crazy.
It's not good. It's not good. It's great.
Oh wow.
Well, are we on to staff picks?
Mm,
I'll let you go first because mine's really dumb.
yeah. Mine is a video game. This time, it's called Planet Crafter. It's a PC only game, and what you do in it is you are a criminal who got caught, and your jail time sentence is to basically go to this planet, that barren planet with nothing on it, and you basically have to terraform it into a living world again.
So your punishment is to inherit and create your own. So they made you God as punishment.
Sort of, yeah. They obviously have a vesting interest in controlling this world, right?
Okay.
They're the corporation owns the planet or whatever, but it's one of those games where you're crafting things and makes meters go up, and then you get better resources, and then you craft some more, and
And are
more
you
and more and
building
more.
civilization, or are you like taking out resources? Like, what is the goal?
So when you start out, you're going around just with, it's almost like a No Man's Sky style of like shooting a laser beam out of a gun to gather little rocks that are strewn about, right?
Yep.
And then yeah, you build power, and you need to make heat, oxygen, and pressure, I think. And as you do that, I think the one cool thing about this game that has it above a lot of the other ones of this style is the world actually really changes around you.
Mm.
Um, so as you're doing it, like things are happening in the world itself, and by the end, it pretty much is like a full like habitable world with animals
Okay.
and everything and trees, and
So you're like
it's pretty cool in that way.
you're turning it into like a sustainable biome, where before it was just like a cold
Just
rock.
desert. Yeah, it's basically Mars, basically.
That's cool.
Yeah, and they do a really good job with that because a lot of the hidden areas then too are locked away between ice walls that will melt when you get your heat up too high. And
Sure.
even so far where my first base, I built it kind of right where you land. Um, as you build the atmosphere and it starts raining and stuff, that turns into a lake. So I had to move my everything in that base
Oh no.
higher ground. Which was kind of annoying, but at least it's like, oh, this is interesting because
Cool.
it's a real thing. Yeah.
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 So is it that No Man's Sky perspective too, like third party or third person, like behind the shoulder view?
No, it's first person. So,
Okay.
and
Well, I guess No Man's Sky is too, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
I'm forgetting that.
And there are some meters where it's like you have to eat to keep your health up. You have to have water. You have to have
Please tell me
air.
it's not as egregious as No Man's Sky, though.
No, it's not. And eventually, I mean, you just work up the thing where the simplest recipes get you water and food, right? So,
Yep.
and air. And eventually, once you make a atmosphere enough to breathe in, well, you don't need air anymore. So like you can just forget about air, which is like kind of
Sweet.
crazy that a game is just like, this annoying gauge that you had to watch the entire game. It's like you're just done. You don't need to ever do it again. It's like
That's
this
very
is
nice.
great.
That
Yeah.
sounds cool. That's just a Steam thing?
Yep. It's PC only. I think it's out of early access now.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I played a lot of late nights this last couple of weeks because those things
When
are
you're
just so
off.
addicting, to me because it's just like, well, if I build this one thing and then this goes into this thing and then you need power and then you need this, and it's
Yeah.
always one more thing with those. But
Yeah, it's always my struggle with those types of games too. It's fun though. I mean, that's the grind, right? Like when it's got a good work and reward flow to it, where you're not just stuck in a
mhm.
mindless pattern of like farming 8 million of something.
Yep.
I think the last one of those I really played was Pal World, and Pal World definitely ramped up to an unfun point by the time I abandoned that.
Yeah. This one, like, it doesn't really ramp up to an unfun point. It just ramps up where the meters start going a little bit slower.
Sure.
So you're unlocking things a little bit slower. But maybe I just wasn't doing it the correct way. There's probably an optimization to do it faster too.
Sure.
Because there's multiple ways to do that. Even at the end, there was some like things in the animal parts I never even unlocked. So I did beat it. There are two. The ending I got, I thought was pretty bad because it's like you finish terraforming the planet and then you call the guy and be like, "Hey, my sentence is up. I did it." And they're like, "Oh, okay." So they pick you up and then they're like, "Well, we have to like review what crimes you did commit while you were on this planet. So
What?
we'll hold you in jail." Yep. So,
That's bullshit.
then I looked up, but there's two other endings. And both of those are like not great either. Like you're basically the only good ending is if you just never
Never finish the game.
never trigger the ending and just live on that planet.
Yeah, I mean that seems like the ultimate solution, right?
Yep.
It's funny. That sounds cool. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Pretty cheap, I'd assume.
Yeah, I think it was $15 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah,
I see there's a DLC where it's a totally different planet that you can start over and a whole new biome and everything too. So I don't know.
Does it
Maybe
have
one day I'll do that.
multiplayer?
I think so.
Okay, that could be fun.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, my staff pick is a little more boring. I couldn't think of anything because I was mostly going to talk about everything as topics. But have you ever like we've gotten really into this Japanese barbecue sauce? Have you bought any of this stuff lately at the stores?
No. What's up with this?
So I mean, it's just like it's kind of like this sort of sauce where it's like the old you put the shit on everything, like the it works so well. So basically, like Japanese barbecue sauce, or at least like the version I'm buying, it's literally called Japanese barbecue sauce. I'm sure there's many kinds. You'll find it at Walmart, wherever, grocery stores. It and like it's like a hint of barbecue sauce, but it's more like salt and like dark soy based. So it's like runnier with like a soy and salty flavor. Plus, you get like the little bit of sweet from like a traditional barbecue sauce. It's fucking fantastic. Like you just like put it on some vegetables lightly and then like air fry them. It's delicious. You put it on your sandwich, put it on your salads. Like it goes great on everything. It's like I'm hooked on it. Like we've
Huh.
been depleting bottles of it at a very rapid rate around my house.
Okay, I'm really intrigued. I'm not a big like barbecue guy, but
No, this is
with
more
the
like almost
with the
like a
soy
cross
sauce.
between a hoisin and a soy. Like is probably maybe the best way to describe it. It's very good. And if you've
Huh.
got like a Blackstone and like do the whole fried rice on there and like drizzle this shit on it, it's fantastic. We've been putting it on ham lately this week too because I went to Walmart and they had like post holiday ham
Yeah.
installed for like stupid cheap. So I'm like, well, I'm not gonna not buy it like $5 ham. So it's great on ham. It's great on anything. So highly recommend. Just
So just no specific brand. There's just like
uh,
a
I think the brand I'm buying is literally called Japanese barbecue sauce. Let me Google it. Japanese barbecue sauce. Oh, okay. It does have a name. It's called. Oh, the app is slow to load here. It's called Bachan's or Bacans, the original Japanese barbecue sauce. Yeah. If you go to Walmart and maybe your Walmart doesn't have it, but like most of the Walmarts have had those like, hey, try this sauce for like $1, and they have like the mini bottles like in the produce section. Um, this one is in there. You can get like
Oh,
the
okay.
mini shooters for like $1, but then like the big bottles like $8, which don't even fuck around with the mini bottles because you can drink that down. Like just go get the big boy. Yeah, it's like a white label red text. It's very delicious.
Huh. We have been having the Chick-fil-A sauce
Oh yeah, that's popular around here too.
in our house and reading the ingredients of that, and it's just like, oh, this is just barbecue mixed with honey mustard sauce. That's the only like
No, it's special. It's the reason there's 4,000 cars at like the drive-through.
uh,
I don't understand. Like I don't understand. Like in Fargo, just like the fever over Chick-fil-A. Like you cannot drive by our Chick-fil-A where there's not at least 30 cars wrapped around that whole thing, and it's two
yeah,
lanes. And I'm
yeah.
just like, it's not bad. I'm not shitting on Chick-fil-A, but like, it is just a chicken sandwich. What are we doing? Like, go to Wendy's. It'll take
Yep.
you half the time.
It is, yeah. Wendy's doesn't put pickles on them.
I don't need the pickle. Take or leave it on the pickle. We're getting a second Chick-fil-A, so maybe that'll help.
Oh, where's that one going?
South somewhere. I don't know.
Sure.
Exactly.
Huh. We got some good chicken breasts from Costco, and kind of doing our own Chick-fil-A's here now, putting the
Nice.
pickles with the sauce. And
Do you bread them?
no, well, they come breaded, so
Oh, perfect.
they're perfect. Yeah, they're like the original thing. We're doing it ourselves. We can have them on Sundays even here.
You air fry those things. Yeah,
Yep.
that's the real problem with Chick-fil-A. Those on Sunday. It is funny because like usually like the 3 times in my life where I've been like, well, let's just go to Chick-fil-A. It's always driving up there and realizing it's a Sunday. It's like, oh fuck.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we should get to our weekend rental, huh?
Let's do it.
So the weekend rental, if you're uninitiated, we play a game for a given system, and then Andy and I will give our opinion as to whether we would buy, rent, or burn that game. And by burn, we mean light it on fire. The console. This episode is the good old Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, and we are talking about Mercs, which is an early game because it still had the grid pattern on the.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that I didn't realize about this game. That first, that it's a sequel to Commando.
Oh, I didn't know that.
On
that makes
NES.
sense.
Yeah, it's the same, and yeah, that it's a Capcom game. Like I think it's programmed by this one. This version has some of Sega working on it, but
Okay.
I always thought this was like, oh, this is one of Sega's games because they had it on the grid and all that, all that stuff. But yeah, it's Capcom, and it's a sequel to Commandos, which makes a lot of sense once you start playing it. You're like, oh yeah, this is Commandos.
Yeah. It plays a lot like that. It also reminded me a lot of like how Growl plays on the Genesis. There's a game on Neo Geo, like I don't know if it's like Shockwave Troopers or Shock Troopers, that also plays remarkably similar to this. I mean, this is the quintessential late 80s, early 90s top-down warfare arcade game. I mean, this thing definitely came out in the arcade because there's an arcade mode and an original mode. I don't know if original is just new content for this version, or if arcade is the souped up version of the original. It was unclear to me. But yeah, like what a solid game. I mean, it takes everything that made Commando great, and then it throws in so much more to like break up the gameplay. You've got way more weapon choice. There's vehicles added in most levels, like things you can take over, like gun turrets. It was just, if you're a gamer of our age, like this is the style of arcade game that you're just immediately like, I know what to do here. And there's something really fun about that.
Yeah. Yep. And this one really felt like it wanted to be a Contra game to me.
Yes, I would agree.
Just I don't know what it was, just the style of it. Obviously a different perspective than Contra does, but for whatever reason,
Super C has some of those top-down levels, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. This is hard to play nowadays because it's you're moving and shooting. You can't shoot a different direction than you're moving. That's always tough when you're used to twin sticks now. But
and there's not like a full range of motion, right? With shooting, it feels like there must be like a 8 or 16 way position. Like you can only hit certain angles, kind of.
Yep. And there was something really strange, like I don't know if this was like programmed to be this way or if it was just like some memory thing, but like if you're shooting down, like you could full blast turbo it and but like if you're shooting in any other direction, it would like limit how many bullets were coming out. It was weird.
Yeah, I guess I didn't notice that too much. I will say the thing you really need to do to make this game enjoyable is to immediately go into the options and then turn rapid on, because then you just hold down the button and spam shot, which saves your thumb immensely. Like I honestly, like I did my first playthrough without that on and did the second playthrough with it on, and it isn't like a cheat code. I didn't get any further. I still died in the same level I died on before, but it definitely saves you from the hand cramp. So I recommend using that.
Yeah. I played a few times before realizing that was an option down in there.
Yeah.
So I turned it on, and then I noticed myself as soon as like things started getting a little hectic on the screen, a little bit more stressful. I was pressing the button instead of just
Yeah,
holding it down,
me
and it's
too.
like, what am I doing?
Yep.
This is when I need the turbo the most, and I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I had the exact same realization multiple times as well. It's funny. It's just habit. I do that with Diablo all the time too, like Diablo 3. Like I'll just spam the button because it's just like my natural reaction.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna hold it.
yeah.
Yeah, the visuals are really good. I mean, it looks like a straight rip of a arcade game, like a quality like '90s era, early '90s, late '80s arcade game. The nice big sprites, which the Genesis was always pretty good about that. I mean, the scrolling looks good. They throw a lot of enemies at you, and it really takes a lot for this game to get to slowdown mode. Like, and I mean,
Hmm.
like 3 vehicles and 20 guys on screen, and then you'll start to notice it.
Yep.
But other than that, like it runs smooth and doesn't flicker too bad. Um, the only thing I think is kind of disappointing with it is like the sound design is just adequate.
Hmm.
The sound effects and everything, perfect fit. The music is just like it's just there. Like it is
Yeah.
so generic and unforgettable.
Especially when, like I said, I had like the Contra vibe to it, and it's like this music is not even in the
No,
same ballpark, you know?
no, not at all.
Yeah. It, it's kind of crazy that they had two distinct modes. I don't know how much you played of each one of them.
I just played the original mode one time through when I realized that like it was permadeath. So it was like no continue, like you're just done. So I never got past the second stage.
Okay, so yeah, once you the arcade one is pretty self-explanatory that, it's just go through, shoot bosses, get continues, and they give you a decent amount of continues
Yeah,
to to go. I mean, I probably got halfway through on arcade,
yeah.
and
I think I got to like level 6.
yeah, and that's yeah, that's not too bad. That's pretty decent for that type of game. And then the original mode is like not it's the same assets, but it's a totally different map. Like they
Yeah,
made new stuff. It's and then you collect these medals, you go in a tent and you can buy things, you get more commandos to join your party,
oh really?
and then yeah, then you don't have you kind of have a roster of commandos at that point that you're upgrading the speed and their power of their shots.
And they're all on screen with you at the same time.
No, you have to select between. You can select
So
between them,
does
and
that
then
become your lives then? Like if you
yeah,
unlock other, okay, so that's the piece I was missing. Gotcha.
yeah. That's the hardest part of that whole version, I'd say. I mean, toward the end, there's some pretty tough spots, but the hardest part was getting to that first tent, and that's I think it's the second level
Okay.
because that's yeah, it's you only have one life to get there, and you have this
Right.
shitty guy who has just a crappy gun. The disappointing part about that, I think there's you get end up with 5 commandos, and none of them are the spread shot guy. And it's like
Oh, it's the best gun.
that's you leave the one gun that you want. You have all these other ones, but that would have been maybe too easy. I don't know. Although the flamethrower guy, once you get him like all the way cranked up, like he can just spin in a circle and do the whole screen pretty much. So
That flamethrower is so amazing in this game. Like, I like how in the arcade mode too, they don't like give you too many options to use it, but like the way it animates and then like the arc of the flame is such a good effect on a
mhm.
game of this era. And that was immediately the thing that like kind of made me feel like Contra too. Like that was the first time where I was like, oh, this is very Contra vibey.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't. Yeah, like I must have died just before I got to that tent because
I did that the first time too, and I'm
yeah,
like, there's got to be something more to this because that can't. There's no way you can beat all these levels with one guy without shitty thing, you know?
right, right. Yeah, I just bailed on it because I was having such fun with the arcade mode that I was like, well, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to keep blowing shit up and riding vehicles, and
Hmm.
that's cool though. It's nice that there's like two, like you said, two distinct modes. I mean, the gameplay is the same, but like the fact that you're getting like essentially 2 for 1 in a game like this is
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. It's almost like an expansion pack or
Right.
something. It's weird. It's or a DLC
And now you'd have to pay
because
for it.
because both times, yeah, the president wants you to do two different things. It's like two different stories. It's
Is the
kind of crazy.
president? I didn't pay attention enough in the original. Is he still kidnapped, like in Africa, or
No, the second one, he just wants you to go rescue some hostages, or I. Now that I think about it, it might be some Iran Contra stuff going on. I don't know, but hey, a Contra reference, I guess. Maybe that's what they're trying to do.
yeah? No, it's a game that like I distinctly remember seeing the cover for, but I think I just never played it because a lot of these early Genesis games, like there was so much that happened before the Genesis really like took off that like a lot of us missed because you just didn't see those games around, and we didn't live. I didn't live in a city that had enough like rental stores that you had like a deep library, right? It was all your Sonics and all your stuff. So I'd never put hands on this game, but I'm surprised that like it doesn't get talked about more because it is real good.
I think this might be one of my favorite ones of these. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of these type of games.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only complaint I really have with it is that it appears to only be single player, which
Mm.
um, it would really benefit from two-player co-op. But I think it probably pushes the console pretty hard. So I think if you did two-player, it would be very tough for the frame rate.
Yeah, and I think there's a version of this on Master System too.
No shit.
So I wonder if what that looks like. If this was just like we're doing that, but we're cranking up.
Souping it up.
Because yeah, there's times where there's vehicles and stuff flying all over the place on this thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what do you give it then on the Byron Burn scale?
I'm gonna give it a buy. I probably wouldn't. Like it's hard to go back to this game. Like I said, it's one of those games that it's very time and place. Now, if I was going to want to play one of these games, a twin stick shooter is going to feel infinitely better.
Yeah.
Actually, they made Commandos 3 on Xbox Live Arcade. Never came out anywhere else, so that
Really?
game's lost forever, I think. I don't know.
It's too bad.
But that one was twin stick shooter, obviously. But yeah, I think this one's really good for what it is. And outside of that, if you can get over that hump, it feels like a really good shooter. It's got bombs. It kind of feels like a shoot 'em up in some ways too. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think I'd go with a buy. I contemplated doing a rent just because if I'm comparing it to other games like this on the console or of that generation, I'd probably gravitate towards a co-op one because I think that makes a big difference for replayability. But the rest of the game outside of that is just so solid and it's so digestible. You know what I mean? Like none of those stages are too long. Like you can get through a run in 20 minutes, 20 30 minutes. So I don't know. I think it deserves a buy because I think it's a type of game you could pop in and just like, all right, I'm gonna waste half an hour here and then move on with my day. And knowing how we would approach a game like this when we were kids, like you'd just spend all the time like figuring out how to cheese it and like the best strategies. And it reminded me a lot of Jackal too, which is not Jackal number 2, but Jackal also. That's one of my favorite games. So I have to give it a buy. Like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I guess one downside of this, I felt like the winning strategy for me was kind of just running past things, like avoiding bullets and running past everything.
There's that. Is it the second or third stage where it's just like tank after tank after tank, and you're like, I just need to keep hoofing it because I can't eat up my continues here. So, but part of learning the strategy, right? Like when to run and when to gun. So
yeah, that's what I would be doing in real life in that situation.
I'd have hopped on that jet ski and I'd have rode my way on out of that river.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna play this one some more after this show for sure.
Yeah, if you get to that tent in the second level in original mode, it's it kind of really opens up into a different game. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued at that now.
Because you get like basically things that you can buy. You can buy power-ups right in that store because you use the metals for money. So
Well, I kind of wondered because like I'd paused in both modes, and then when you pause in that mode, like it had like the different blank lines. I was like, okay, but then it had stats for the player too. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that definitely I didn't see that in the other game, so
yeah,
it makes
yeah,
sense that there's that whole extra layer.
yeah.
It's cool.
Yep. Well, I think that's going to do it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Another one in the books. You can reach us at weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. And we're on Twitter. We're on all those other things. Blue Sky.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff. So if you want to reach out, you can find us. We'd love to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
We're also on the Geekade podcast network. We have exclusive movie podcast over there on the Patreon, Geekade Patreon. I don't know if we have a movie picked out next time or not. Do we?
I think we're gonna have to do that after this
Yeah,
recording.
we're gonna have to do that. But until next time, be kind, rewind.
Bananas.